Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. Can you hear me okay and see me okay? Thank you. What a week it's been. Copper, can you go somewhere else and chew that, please? He's got his toy up here on the bed and he decided to chew it while I go live. Like I said, every time I go to do a live stream, he's got to have the attention. Crazy dog. He's my crazy old boy. Yeah. Anyways, it is Tuesday, which means it is AA day. Moving on. He's limping. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. He's like, I'm not listening to you, Mom. Lay down. Anyway, so it is AA day. I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So please don't be rude or judging each other in the chats. Don't go harassing everybody that is in the chat because they may not be the alcoholic. So please just be mindful of that. Chulo. I don't know what that is. Just a minute, guys. I don't know what that is. I'll have to start that later. Hopefully Facebook is okay. But yeah, anyways, just be kind to each other in the chats and be mindful that not everybody that comes to my channel and in the comments leaves a comment, they may not be the one that is alcoholic. So please just know that. Hi, Ivan. Good to see you. Been a while. Hope you're doing well. This thing keeps popping up over here on Facebook. It wants me to learn more. I don't know what that is. So hopefully it's recording right. I don't know. I'll have to check it out when I get done, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it's good. So anyways, let's get on with it. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 5. Okay, I already read that one. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Sorry, guys. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. "12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs." Sorry, I'm being a little distracted. Can I read it out loud, Ivan? That's exciting, Ivan. That's exciting. So Ivan says he is doing really well. Finally made the decision to donate fifth wheel to American veterans. Thank you for donating to the veterans. They sacrifice a lot. And go full-time boondocking in the desert. Oh, you're gonna be a snowbird. You're gonna come here for the winters and that's good. Cool. Glad to hear that. Having something exciting to look forward to is always great. My son just tried to call me and he knows I'm live right now. So just let me tell him. Anyways. Alright, let's get on with this. So I always put in the description what we're reading, what book, what story, and the page. And right now we are in the big book, and it is The Vicious Cycle. Get the water. Alright. After the oil job blew up, I went back to Baltimore, and Mother, my first wife, having said a permanent goodbye. Then came a sales job with a national tire company. I recognized the city I recognized their city sales policy, and 18 months later, when I was 30, they offered me the branch managership. Copper, lay down. Lay down. As part of this promotion, they sent me to their national convention in Atlantic City. Okay, so, Atlanta City to tell the big wheels how I done it. At this time, I was holding what drinking I did down to weekends, but I hadn't had a drink at all in a month. I checked into my hotel room and then noticed a placard tucked under the glass on the bureau. Lost my spot again. Starting. There will be positively no drinking at this convention, signed by the president of the company. That did it. Who, me? The big shot? The only salesman invited to talk at the convention. The man who was going to take over one of their biggest branches come Monday. I'd show him happened? What? I don't know what just happened, but all my stuff just changed. Just a minute, everybody. I'm trying. There it is. Can you hear me? Wow. What a pain in the tush. Hello, Ava. Thank you for coming. Sheesh. All right, let's get back to where I was. There will be positively no drinking at this convention, signed by the president of the company. That did it. Who? Me? The big shot? The only salesman invited to talk at the convention? The man who was going to take over one of their biggest branches come Monday? I'd show him who was boss. Good morning, Brandy. Thank you for coming. I will come see you on Saturday morning. I know, Saturday afternoon. I'm talking to my sponsor over here on Facebook. Alright, Monday, I'd show him who was boss. No one in that company saw me again. 10 days later, I wired my resignation. As long as things were tough and the job a challenge, I could always manage to hold on pretty well. But as soon as I learned the combination, got the puzzle under control, and the boss to pat me on the back, I was gone again. Routine jobs bored me, but I would take on the toughest one I could find and work day and night until I had it under control. Then it would become tedious and I'd lose all interest in it. I could never be bothered with the following through and would invariably reward myself for my efforts with that first drink. After the fire job came the 30s, the depression, and the downhill road. In the 8 years before AA found me, I had over 40 jobs, selling and traveling, one thing after another, and the same old routine. I'd work like mad for 3 or 4 weeks without a single drink, save my money, pay a few bills, and then reward myself with alcohol. Then I'd be broke again, hiding out in cheap hotels all over the country, having one-night jail stands here and there, and always that horrible feeling, what's the use? Nothing is worthwhile. Every time I blacked out, and that was every time I drank. There was also the gnawing fear, what did I do this time? Once I found out many alcoholics have learned they can bring their bottle to a cheap movie theater and drink, sleep, wake up, and drink again in the darkness. I had repaired to one of these one morning with my jug, and when I left late in the afternoon, I picked up a newspaper on the way home. Imagine my surprise when I read in a page one box that I had been taken from the theater unconscious around noon that day, removed by ambulance to a hospital and stomach pumped, and then released. Evidently, I had gone right back to the movie with a bottle, stayed there several hours, and started home with no recollection of what had happened. The mental state of the sick alcoholic is beyond description. Will you lay down now? Now. Lay down. The mental state of the sick alcoholic is beyond description. I had no resentments against individuals. The whole world was all wrong. My thoughts went round and round with, what's it all about anyhow? People have wars and kill each other. They struggle and cut each other for success. And what does anyone get out of it? Haven't I been successful? Haven't I accomplished extraordinary things in business? What do I get out of it? Everything's all wrong, and the hell with it. For the last 2 years of my drinking, I prayed during every drunk I wouldn't wake up again. 3 months before I met Jackie, I had made my second feeble try at, what people don't like to talk about. I'm just gonna say it. Suicide. This was the background that made me willing to listen on January 8th, after being dry 2 weeks and sticking close to Jackie. All of a sudden, I found I had become a sponsor of my sponsor, for he was suddenly taken drunk. I was startled to learn he had only been off the booze a month or so before when he brought me the message. However, I made a SOS call to the New York group, whom I hadn't met, and they suggested we both come there. This we did the next day, and what a trip. I really had a chance to see myself from a non-drinking point of view. We checked into the home of Hank, the man who had fired me 11 years before in Mississippi. And there I met Bill, our founder. Bill had then been dry 3 years, and Hank too. At the time, I thought them just a swell pair of screwballs, for they were not only going to save all the drunks in the world, but also all the so-called normal people. All they talked of that first weekend was God, and how they were going to straighten out Jackie's and my life. In those days, we really took each other's inventories firmly and often. Despite all this, I did like these new friends because, again, they were like me. They had also been periodic big shots who had goofed out repeatedly at the wrong time, and they also knew how to split one paper match into three separate matches. This is full, very useful knowledge in places where matches are prohibited. They too had taken a train to one town and had wakened hundreds of miles in the opposite direction, never knowing how they got there. The same old routine seemed to be common to us all. During that first weekend, I decided to stay in New York and take all they gave out with except the God stuff. I knew they needed to straighten out their thinking and habits, but I was all right. I just drank too much. Just give me a good front and a couple of bucks, and I'd be right back in the big time. I'd be dry 3 weeks, had the wrinkles out, and had sobered up my sponsor all by myself. Bill and Hank had just taken over a small automobile polish company, and they offered me a job, $10 a week, and keep at Hank's house. We were all set to put DuPont out of business. At that time, the group in New York was composed of about 12 men who were working on the principle of every drunk for himself. We had no real formula and no name. We would follow one man's idea for a while, decide he was wrong, and switch to another method. But we were staying sober as long as we kept and talked together. There are talk together. There was one meeting a week at Bill's home in Brooklyn, and we all took turns there spouting off about how we had changed our lives overnight, how many drunks we had saved and straightened out, and last but not least, how God had touched each of us personally on the shoulder. Boy, what a circle of confused idealists. Yet we all had one really sincere purpose in our heart, and that was not to drink. At our weekly meeting, I was a menace to Serenity those first few months, for I took every opportunity to lab state labase that spiritual angle as we called it, or anything else that had any tinge of theurgy. Much later, I discovered the elders held many prayer meetings, hoping to find a way to give me the heaven ho or the heave ho, but at the same time stay tolerant and spiritual. They did not seem to be getting an answer, for here I was staying sober and selling lots of auto polish on which they were making 1,000% profits. So I rocked along my merry independent way until June, when I went out selling auto polish in New England. After a very good week, two of my customers took me to lunch on Saturday. We ordered sandwiches and one man said, 3 beers. I let mine sit. After a bit, the other man said, 3 beers. I let that sit too. Then it was my turn. I ordered 3 beers, but this time it was different. I had a cash investment of 30 cents, and on a $10 a week salary, that's a big thing. So I drank all 3 beers, one after the other, and said, I'll be seeing you boys, and went around the corner for a bottle. I never saw either of them again. I had completely forgotten the January 8th, when I found the fellowship, and I spent the next 4 days wandering around New England half drunk, by which I mean I couldn't get drunk and I couldn't get sober. I tried to contact the boys in New York by telegrams, but telegrams bounced right back. And when I finally got Hank on the telephone, he fired me right then. This was when I really took my first good look at myself. My loneliness was worse than it had ever been before. For now, even my own kind had turned against me. This time it really hurt, more than any hangover ever had. My brilliant agnosticism vanished, and I saw for the first time that those who really believed, or at least honestly tried to find power greater than themselves, were much more composed and contented than I had ever been, and they seemed to have a degree of happiness I had never known. Peeling off my polished samples for expenses, I crawled back to New York a few days later in a very chastened frame of mind. When the others saw my altered attitude, they took me back in, but for me, they had to make it tough. If they hadn't, I don't think I would have stuck it out. Once again, there was the challenge of a tough job, but this time I was determined to follow through. For a long time, the only higher power I could concede was the power of the group, but this was far more than I had ever recognized before, and it was at least a beginning. It was also an ending, for never since June 16, 1938, have I had to walk alone. Around this time, our big AA book was being written, and it's all become much simpler. We had a definite formula that some 60 of us agreed was the middle course for all alcoholics who wanted sobriety, and that formula had not been changed one iota down through the years. I don't think the boys were completely convinced of my personality change, for they fought shy of including my story in the book. So my only contribution to this literary effort was my firm conviction, since I was still a theological rebel, that the word God should be qualified with the phrase as we understand him. For that was the only way I could accept spirituality. After the book appeared, we all became very busy in our efforts to save all and sundry. But I was still actually on the fringes of AA. While I went along with all that was done and attended the meetings, I never took an active job of leadership until February 1940. Then I got a very good position in Philadelphia and quickly found I would need a few fellow alcoholics around me. Come on, get up here. If I was to stay sober. Thus, I found myself in the middle of a brand new group. When I started to tell the boys how we did it in New York and all about the spiritual part of the program, I found they would not believe me unless I was practicing what I preached. Hopper, go lay down. Get up here and lay down. Come on. Come on. Over there. Lay down. He's right behind the computer. Then I found that as I gave in to this spiritual or personality change, I was getting a little more serenity. In telling newcomers how to change their lives and attitudes, all of a sudden, I found I was doing a little changing myself. I had been too self-sufficient to write a moral inventory, but I discovered in pointing out to the new man his wrong attitudes and actions that I was really taking my own inventory, and that if I expected him to change, I would have to work on myself too. This change has been a long, slow process for me, but through these latter years, the dividends have been tremendous. In June 1945, with another member, I made my first and only 12-step call on a female alcoholic, and a year later I married her. She has been sober all the way through, and for me that has been good. We can share in the laughter and tears of our many friends, and most important, we can share our AA way of life and are given a daily opportunity to help others. In conclusion, I can only say that whatever growth or understanding has come to me, I have no wish to graduate. Very rarely do I miss the meetings of my neighborhood's AA group, and my average has never been less than 2 meetings a week. I've served on only one committee in the past 9 years, for I feel that I had my chance the first few years and that never or that newer member should fill the job. They are far more alert and progressive than we floundering fathers were, and the future of our fellowship is in the hands. We now live in the West and are very fortunate in our area AA. It is good, simple, and friendly, and our one desire is to stay in AA and not on it. Our pet slogan is Easy Does It. And I still say that as long as I remember that January 8th in Washington, that is how long, by the grace of God, as I understand Him, I will retain a happy sobriety. So, what I like to do is go to the part that makes me feel the most emotional when I read, and it's the realizing when, like me now, I am sharing my AA journey, and I I believe in there is a greater power, and so I have to admit that I am not religious. I do have a religion, but I don't go to church. I'm not a participating person in my religion or any religion, except for I do follow AA and I do believe that there is something greater than me. So the part that made me feel something is where he says, in June 1945, with another member, I made my first and only 12-step call on a female alcoholic, and a year later, I married her. She has been sober all the way through, and for me, that has been good. We share in the laughter and the tears of our many friends, and most important, we can share our AA way of life and are given a daily opportunity to help others. In conclusion, I can only say that whatever growth or understanding has come to me, I have no wish to graduate. I don't want to graduate AA either. My plan is always to use AA in my life because it has been the most helpful thing to me to help me stay sober and to know that I can share my story and there's people just like me. I'm not alone in it. And it does take a long time for people to get there, It's not on day one you're going to understand it. You might not even understand or get the aha for a long time. I, however, as soon as I started AA, I didn't attend the full meetings. I'd show up. I didn't, I felt uncomfortable, so I left. I did that for a while. I still do that if I'm going to a meeting. It has to do with I'm shy and I'm still fearful of being judged. because I remember what it's like to go back out and, you know, and, and make that mistake of going back to where I've come from. Did you get the cheese sauce?
Yeah, they're in the fridge.
Okay.
Uh,
Just a minute, guys.
The cheese sauce was actually about 30 cents cheaper at Winco. Those were $5.58.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Sidebar conversation. But having learned the things that I've learned and learning to use the steps on a daily basis, it has helped a lot. Now, I swear that if I did not find AA, if I did not get my sponsor when I did, I probably would have went back out a long time ago. I'm coming up on my sobriety birthday. I'm trying to not get too far ahead of myself because when you do that, things happen. And I'm superstitious, you know, but I have to say that this is going to be so wonderful on the 15th. I'm going to be live doing a meeting and a celebration for my 10 years. It's a lot of work, you guys. It is. I still have those character traits of like isolating myself. No, I'm not drinking, but I'm still isolating myself. And part of that is my shyness. And I don't want to make anybody upset. And so it it's it's hard for me to go out and about and mix and mingle with other people, but I do occasionally go out. My sponsor probably doesn't like me saying I'm isolating, but that's what I've been doing. I've been isolating. And I really shouldn't. And this last week's been tough, but that doesn't need to be brought into this. But with being sober and not having the steps, I really don't know if I would have made it this far. I'm going to say I probably wouldn't, you know, because that's part of what we do, you know, being an alcoholic and always thinking of alcohol. That's what we did for so long, is that was our only concern. We didn't care who we hurt, what we said, nothing, you know, until we were sober for a day or a week, and then we go right back at it, right? I think when I finally got sober, I had been drinking on the daily. I would take maybe 3 days at the most without drinking, but then it was like I was having the shakes and stuff, and I didn't like it. Like all the rest of the alcoholics, you don't like it when you're shaking. And so, yeah, and so I finally decided when it was just me, I wasn't around anybody except for my husband and my son who don't drink, and my husband quit drinking a long time ago. And, and he's always by my side in my sobriety. If I'm feeling like, you know, I'm going to go off the wagon, he's like, remember, And that's all it takes is for me to think back of where I came from. And holy crap, I don't want to go back. Not to that. I don't want to be the one going and begging for money. I don't want to be the one that it's just not me anymore. And I'm glad to be who I am right now. I'm glad that I got sober, that I found AA, that I found a fellowship that I can depend upon, that understands what I've been through, and they don't pass judgment on me, and I don't on them either. And that's the best thing of AA that they offer is there's no judgment, there's no time limit of when you have to get something done. My sponsor, she's like, you need to work on this, you need to work on that, you need to work on that. But, eventually I did. And I got to thank her for that. And I also got to thank my second sponsor for always telling me to use my voice. She told me that when I did my first speaker meeting. Use your voice. Yeah. And so that's what I'm doing. Using my voice. Here and now. And I'm here on Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Sundays at 11 a.m. Or, no, sorry guys. I'm going to be live on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Because I got to go back to work in a week. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to read the daily reflection and then get back to the day. So it's November 12th, morning thoughts. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for a man who is still sick, man or woman who's still sick, or, anyone who's still sick. And that's Alcoholics Anonymous, page 164. For many years, I pondered over God's will for me, believing that perhaps a great destiny had been ordained for my life. After all, having been born into a specific faith, hadn't been told early that I was chosen. It finally occurred to me as I considered the above passage that God's will for me was simply that I practice step 12 on a daily basis. Furthermore, I realized I should do this to the best of my ability. I soon learned that the practice aids me in keeping my life in the context of the day at hand. Yep. And thank you all for coming. And Ivan, I'm excited for you. That's pretty cool. And I want to thank everybody for always being here. Even if you're watching the replay, I appreciate you for your support in my journey as a content creator and as an AA member. If you ask why I do this, because it's a gift I got for free. It's my obligation to share it for free and help the next one. Yep, help the next one. It's called service work. And I'm proud to do it. So, with that, let's say the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. My end button don't want to work. There it is. Love you guys.